In an escalating transatlantic firestorm threatening irreparable scorch marks across what remains of her already beleaguered public image, Meghan Markle has detonated a thermonuclear conflagration retaliating against music icon Elton John for perceived character assassination during an explosive television appearance, pummeling the Duchess' reputation. Just moments after acclaimed singer-songwriter's barbed comments slamming the exiled Sussex royal aired before a global audience of millions tuning into The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, an enraged Meghan burst into a feverish frenzy, commanding her emergency public relations battalions for total war. The ignition point sparking this latest powder keg conflagration arrived during John's interview when Fallon transitioned, discussing renewed concerns surrounding Netflix's Harry and Meghan docuseries and its polarizing aftermath still haunting Windsor Palaces months later. Despite initially seeming somewhat tight-lipped, deflecting overly intrusive prodding into aspects he preferred avoiding, the tiny dancer, balladeer eventually unleashed years of pent-up grievances, specifically excoriating Markle for perpetuating divisive toxicity while doubling down defending the embattled British royal family throughout her nasty falling out with the firm. "Oh beloved, don't you dare waste your breath asking me about that gruesome telebabbling bacchanalia, wretched noxious horrors, how, because I simply cannot remain civil when broaching that despicable debacle of a couple prioritizing ghastly vendettas over human decencies," John fired, opening salvo, eyebrows raising across the studio before escalating into a shockingly unrestrained profanity-laden tirade. "Because that horrific deceit-traitor lady's cold-blooded shamelessness televising such utterly irredeemable deception, barrages leveraged as guided missiles against an ailing nonagenarian monarch's ancestral bloody dynasty? No sane human questioning that staged malicious limelight-abusing charade perpetrated heinous psychological tortures onto helpless families already embattling unbearable tragedies. Honestly, sod dignity protocols, because I'm just calling it exactly how I've witnessed firsthand. Meghan Markle's forked tongues are slithering eczema saliva-drenched viper tentacles sliming their toxins over anything decent left upon this earth. Even by famously vitriolic standards established across Elton's outrageous 4-decade recording career, the jaw-dropping incendiary insult barrages targeting Meghan rapidly metastasized into apparent nervous breakdowns, reliving traumatic anthropause horrors imprinted alongside Buckingham's corridors during global pandemic-eyed upheavals. According to backstage leaks racing through tabloid circulation channels, John's increasingly unhinged disassociations accelerated until cameramen cut transmitting, fearing the pop culture icon's outbursts potentially triggering unrecoverable violations against broadcast indecency standards. However, separate footage obtained circulating across social media channels captured the rock legend's gobsmacked climax, issuing blistering, expletive-laden condemnations where he accused Meghan of single-handedly murdering the 20th century on a global stage before concluding that she should literally self-defenestrate as penance, restoring metaphysical equilibrium. "I'm sorry, but words no longer become me attempting comprehending whatever parallel universe that utterly mad Kermit Peckingpaw puppeteer demon emanated from, as her malicious bemusement campaigns committed psychological sorceries, somehow recasting me as Barbra Streisand's Berlin bunker interior decorator," exhaled John, still exhibiting signs of severe dissociative psychosis even after emergency aid administrations. Because legitimately, if even 1/1000th dropped from her peace de resistance repertoire defiling Queen Elizabeth's eternal dignity holds truth, then Care Paravel's mythic White Witch emerges Meryl motherfucking Streep in Sophie's Choice Child's Play comparisons, demanding we transfuse orc urine, curing every rampant toxin infecting God's green earth. While her loyalists typically dismiss bad press, brushing off typical smear campaigns targeting Meghan Markle alongside non-stop fending Yorkist White Rose Death Eater backlash harassment every time she draws fresh breath in public. According to backstage reports, the Duchess arrived at an undisclosed rage room's safe house fanatically plotting revenge scenarios the very moment John started melting down on stage. Details remain shrouded surrounding which specific unconfirmed allegations disseminated by the globally revered rock star triggered such nuclear retaliation scenarios, though unverified speculation overwhelmingly leans toward a combination of illusions branding Meghan a manipulative fabulist exploiting tragic sovereign deaths for media circuses alongside intimations undercutting her social justice activism's moral integrations and cultural authenticity resonances. No sooner did phones activate across Greater Hollywood Basin affiliates sharing that foul-mouthed bigot Elton's cursed blasphemies when Meghan started unraveling, frantically pacing around our enclosure among concerned wails and howls of utterly unacceptable, Besides psychotically escalating diatribes raging how we all require fully activating our emergency DEFCON procedures, rebuilding humanity anew from the smoldering ashes, corroborated one insider sharing eyewitness accounts trailing the Duchess's initial meltdowns descending into obsessive fixations, assembling preemptive strike packages. And before you could even comprehend what her definition of DEFCON procedures entailed, Meg revealed spooling up these quasi-scriptural reprisals, threatening biblical vengeance screeds, crucifying Elton with ritualistic public shaming campaigns, essentially refracting insults back, amplified bludgeoning idolatry monoliths worldwide. While preliminary rumblings from the exiled royals began disseminating quickly across interlinked West Coast affiliate channels broadcasting generalized rebuttals categorically denying all scurrilous character attacks, according to separate infiltration analysis conducted by media watchdog groups. Markle's contingencies accelerated into shocking retaliatory deployments targeting Sir Elton's legacies, leveraging coordinated full-spectrum defamation operations across global theater commands. At the broadest conceptual tier, missive campaign blueprints outline overarching scorched-earth psychological warfare doctrines, mobilizing influence activations, relentlessly carpet-bombing Elton John's entertainment industry iconographies through multilateral strategic communications blitzkriegs, prosecuting simultaneous distributed PSYOP dominances across omniscoped infospheres, mediaspheres, and perception spheres indefinitely until submission or public rehabilitation re-education concludes. Drilling cascading nodes, breakdown implementing those overarching Psy-war saturation contingencies. Sub-operational optimizations choreograph Meghan, centralizing emergent resistance coalition conglomerating through aggregated mobilization engines, assembling synergistic amalgams, aggregating influence arsenals alongside pre-existing archetype subvertical affiliates and dissident NGOs, waging parallel anti-establishment crusades against perceived injustice monoliths. Harnessing unified forces, rapidly accelerating criticality, mass recruiting stakeholders into an overarching zeitgeist ideological awakening, Markle-themed distributed idea proliferation, DIP, networks aim catalyzing and cross-pollinating mutually symbiotic cultural revolutions across overlapping social justice battle spaces, already prosecuting analogous conflict theater campaigns. More tactically, an even deeper embedded operational agenda gridding transtracheal strike coordination implementations outlines Arquillian warp-shock warlaw protocols, systematically ripping computational fabrics spanning bioinformatic sentience domains, infecting Elton's identities across immersive realities. Essentially enacting post-spacetimed madmeta compliance loops, hijacking perceptual schemas, trepanning Elton's phenomenology continuums through hyperinverting snare-layered memoplexes. The recursive warlaw weave crafting collapses mega-celebrities' personal cosmospheres into infinite-erased inceptions, forever overriding legacy telebiographies onto profoundly Gnostic re-education metafiction brandisms. Or in layperson's terms, deleting individualities from public consciousness while reprogramming everyone consuming Elton's artistic legacies until they only perceive his existence as grotesque revisionist Meghanology pseudomythographies. As we've seen repeatedly, the House of Sussex's communications directorates consistently mobilize multifrontal propaganda.